but we need to try to stay to our schedule of 6:30 because we have people online participating in this. But tonight, our league wants to particularly acknowledge one of our league members. And her name is Judy Stuffman. And Judy, if you would just please stand up here. Judy has been for many, many years organizing the whole process for registering voters at citizenship ceremonies. And she's done it not just in the metro area, but she has done it throughout the state. And she's worked very closely with the Secretary of State's office and of course recruits a lot of league members. But we want to really, Judy, thank you publicly and kind of dedicate this particular program to you and all you have done for so many, not hundreds of people, but thousands and thousands of people throughout the state. Thank you, Judy. And so now I'll turn this over to Chris Olson, who will introduce our speaker this evening. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chris Olson. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters Roseville area, which is the organization that's bringing you this program tonight. If you aren't familiar with the League, we are a volunteer, grassroots civic organization with over 100 years of experience educating, advocating, and working toward reforms to make our democracy work for all. If you're interested in learning more, we have a membership table set up in the back of the room, or talk to anyone that's wearing a button tonight. Our program today is entitled Journey to Citizenship: Insights into the Immigrant Experience. Immigration is in the news on a daily basis, but how well do we really understand the challenges and opportunities of immigrants seeking U.S. citizenship? We will begin today to gain greater insights into this very important topic, and then hopefully have some time for Q&A as well. If you have questions, raise your hand and we will get you a card, and then we'll have you just write those down and hand them back to us, and we'll give those to Gloria when the time is right. Our speaker is Gloria Contreras Edin. She is a principal at Contreras Edin Law. She has advised on thousands of matters involving clients from more than 25 countries in North America, Central America, South America, Europe, Africa, and Asia on a wide range of complicated and sensitive immigration issues. She also has a great deal of experience in dealing with state courts, federal courts, and federal immigration agencies. And she's going to tell you a little bit more about herself and how she came to be an immigration attorney. But one other thing is she is also currently serves as an adjunct professor at Mitchell-Hamlin Law School, School of Law, where she teaches immigration law, which, by the way, she is teaching later tonight. So keep in mind that we have she has a deadline to meet, so we'll probably wrap right about 7:30 so she can get to yet one more appointment for her day. So without further ado, please welcome Gloria Contreras Edin.
Thank you for that warm welcome. And I just want to say, Judy, every immigration lawyer in Minnesota loves you. Seriously, we know about you, we know who you are, and we love you. What you do is so valuable. Today I'm going to talk about four things briefly, because I really want to get to your questions and I want to hear more about what interests all of you. Four things today is we'll talk a little bit about what immigration lawyers do, okay, in Minnesota. We'll talk a little bit about demographics, population demographics, although I have to admit, I'm not very good with numbers and pie charts, and I created these pie charts. I'm not very confident when it comes to numbers. There's a reason why I went into law, and it's because I don't like numbers. It just was so much easier. The third thing we're going to talk about is citizenship and pathways to citizenship. And I'll keep it very brief. And then finally, I'll share a little bit more about who I am and why I went to law school and why I love doing this work. But I want to begin with acknowledging the League of Women Voters. I own a very small building in St. Paul, and for approximately 5 years, the League of Women Voters rented a spot for me there, a location, an office. And through them, I was able to learn more about the League's work, and I gained a tremendous amount of respect for all of you, because I also learned that the League is made up mostly of volunteers. Volunteers like all of you here today. And volunteers, I believe, are what keeps our society together. Volunteerism is at the heart of what it means to be American. And I'm so incredibly grateful for all of the time and your talent and your treasures that you've given to the work of the League of Women Voters. If you are, how many of you are volunteers? I'm assuming that all of you are. Many of you are, okay. Well, I want to say thank you. Thank you as the daughter of immigrants. Thank you as an immigration lawyer for all that you do. And thank you as an American. I am a US citizen. I have a copy of my passport and in case I need it. And thank you. What you do is so crucial and important. And the League is a critical, necessary organization today, Judy, more than ever before. So thank you. So let's begin. Oh, I forgot to ask you how to make this work. I guess, oops, I was just gonna magically set it off. Okay.
Just hit the arrow.
Oh, the arrows? Okay, sure. And by the way, if I'm a little late, my students are happy. They're looking forward to me missing class completely, but I really need to be there, so.
Otherwise, you just hit the mouse button.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. So let's begin. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, what does an immigration lawyer do in Minnesota or anywhere else? We do many things. Immigration lawyers tend to separate themselves between lawyers that represent individuals and lawyers that represent companies or organizations or universities or nonprofits. I'm a lawyer that represents individuals. So I represent individuals in what we call family-based immigration law. And that means that I help people with applications for citizenship. And that means I help people with family-based applications before USCIS. I also represent individuals in removal proceedings. I've, over the years, represented people from many, many countries. I represent men and women. I also represent many children. And in the last Trump administration, I represented many small children whom I had to take to court, where the earphones that we put on them wouldn't even fit on them. And half the time they needed a potty break or a snack. Now, it's a good thing that I'm the mother of 4 children. They're all grown and gone now. But I was very comfortable managing small children in court. And of course, being a mother and being a grandmother, I was very protective of my clients in immigration court. Could you just imagine bringing small children into the courtroom? As crazy as it sounds, it's happened, it has happened, and it will continue to happen, okay? Employment-based lawyers, I have many good colleagues who practice employment-based law, do other things. They help individuals, or they help, companies they provide them with advice on how to bring in individuals who may want to work for them or whom they want to recruit. So employment-based visas are often applications that they might file, or they will file non-immigrant visas, such as religious worker visas for churches, or H visas for employers, or they might help schools with F visas for students. So many of the employment-based lawyers work with organizations, churches, nonprofits, companies. And I, on the other hand, a family-based lawyer, will work with individuals, many families that are seeking some sort of immigration status, whether they're adjusting their immigration status here in the United States, or whether they're looking for status when they haven't had any status in the United States. And so without getting into the technicalities of who's in the United States and whether someone's admissible or inadmissible, I will just leave it at that. And if you need clarification, I'm happy to clarify that at the end. But there is a separation. Most family-based lawyers will not practice employment-based law, and most employment-based lawyers may not practice family-based law. In general, we become specialists in our own areas just because immigration law is so incredibly complicated. It's ever changing. Nowadays, it's changing every day. And so it's difficult to capture an area of law and then do it well and switch. Although I've heard people do it, and smarter people than me can do it. I don't think I can switch. I think I need to stay doing family-based work, and I really enjoy doing it, and I can share more about that later and why I enjoy doing it. Okay, let's move on into the demographics, the numbers. Oh, this is where I'm really nervous, the numbers. All righty, just if you can just give me some grace. So people talk about, so in the news, if you've seen the news lately, you might hear people talking about the illegals, the aliens, the invaders. You might hear people talking about individuals who are here who don't belong here. In general, we as immigration lawyers will refer to individuals without status as people who are here without status. They don't have authorization to be in the United States. But that isn't the largest portion of our foreign-born population. It's a very small number. Unfortunately, it's the number that our media really focuses on, and it's the narrative that dominates the conversation about all foreign-born individuals. And so it's sometimes difficult for folks to distinguish who should be here and who shouldn't be here. On top of that, immigration law is so complicated. I would say it's easy to muddy the conversation when you have a challenging area of law, when we really don't know how many unauthorized immigrants are here, and when we're focused solely on what's happening at the border, or when we're focused solely on individuals who may be invading us. So what I have found is that there are some very good websites. In preparation of this presentation, I found some very useful websites, specifically minnesotacompass.org. Wow, I'm going to donate to them. They are fantastic. Their statistics are terrific, and most of the information that you have here is from minnesota.org. I can forward you the PowerPoint, which includes notes, and those notes have links to some of the statistics, these pie charts that I created, so that I wouldn't have words, I would rather have charts. I think sometimes visually it's easier for me. This pie chart here speaks to the foreign-born population. And within the foreign-born population, approximately 81,000 are here without authorization. And that is from Minnesota. So let's estimate 81,000 individuals without status here. Does that mean that they're all part of the gang from Venezuela? No, no, maybe one, I don't know. That doesn't, when someone's here without authorization, it also doesn't mean that they came here and snuck in. Individuals who are here sometimes without authorization didn't intend to come in without authorization. They came in with some sort of visa. Maybe they came in with a tourist visa, or maybe they came in with a working visa, a worker visa. And then for some reason, they decided to stay. And when they decided to stay, they became unauthorized. They're here without status. And so they remain without status unless they can change their immigration status in the future. And that really depends on a variety of laws. I won't get into that, but I just wanted to give you the numbers of the estimated number of unauthorized individuals in Minnesota. Now, I compared that to this pie chart, which is the estimated total number of unauthorized immigrants in the United States, okay? When we consider the entire US population, it's estimated that approximately 11 million people are here without authorization. Again, those are here without authorization may include people who came across the border, those who were focused on, or those who were featured on the television frequently during the election period. And then, of course, there are some people who entered with permission, with a visa, but then overstayed. So the unauthorized immigrant population in the United States is made up of many individuals, not just individuals who snuck into the country or who sought to invade us for any reason. In fact, I've met thousands of immigrants and none of them have come to invade us at all. Okay, does that make sense, or is that, okay, good. All right, tracking, numbers are good. This chart, oh, okay, well, this one here, okay. Let's see, where are we here? Unauthorized, okay. Going back to Minnesota, of the total foreign-born population, 9% of Minnesotans are considered immigrants, which means they include people who have naturalized US citizenship, they're lawful permanent residents, they're individuals who are seeking refugee and asylee status. And then there's also individuals with non-immigrant visas. Remember I mentioned non-immigrant visas that employment-based lawyers help with? They may include student visas, worker visas, or temporary visas to visit. And so that it's about 9% of Minnesotans, 9% of the foreign-born in Minnesota, 9% of the 5,499,000. Again, those numbers are all at minnesotacompass.org, and they're attached to this presentation. And I will make sure I share that with all of you. So where are these foreign-born individuals from? And then again, this is Minnesota. So when we look at the total population of foreign-born, the folks that make up most of the foreign-born are individuals that come from 5 countries, mostly from 5 countries: Mexico, Somalia, India, Hmong, which were primarily in Laos and Thailand, Ethiopia, and yep, that's 5. And this just gives you a perspective of where individuals are from in the state of Minnesota, at least the majority. And those numbers, again, are found on minnesotacompass.org, a great nonprofit. I, quite frankly, had never even heard of it until I started preparing for this presentation. So I'm grateful that I've learned something. Thank you. So where are these folks living? Let's see. Let's see if this helps. Can you see that? That looks like Minnesota. All righty. So the folks most immigrants live in the Twin Cities. And there are pockets of immigrants that are also living in greater Minnesota. The largest population is approximately 62,000 in Minneapolis and 58,000 in St. Paul. Now, I'm particularly fond of the rural areas because that is where my heart is. My heart is in Staples, Minnesota. Does anyone know where that is? You do, okay. So some of you know where Staples is. My children were born in Staples. I was married in Staples. I lived there for 10 years. And I decided to become a lawyer because of my experiences in Staples and in Long Prairie, Minnesota, which is why my heart is there. You see, in 1997, I, with my husband, moved to Staples, Minnesota. I was living in Los Angeles. And I moved to a town of 2,500 people. And I thought I landed in heaven. I lived along the Wadena River. What was that river up there? Oh, what is the name of the river? It's a beautiful river. Wadena, is it the Wadena River? It's a beautiful river. I lived right in front of the river. We lived near a golf course. It was beautiful, and truly it is heaven. And it is there that I raised my boys, and there that I got married. I got married, and then I went back to LA and then came back. And it is there where I met an extraordinary group of immigrants and refugees from Ethiopia, from Somalia, and from Mexico. It is there that I learned that there was a growing population of immigrants and refugees who worked in the agriculture industry. They worked at the turkey processing plants, Jennie-O turkey, you know, where we get our butterball turkeys from, our turkeys, big butter turkeys. I like those very much during Thanksgiving. And then they worked at the meat processing plant, Long Prairie Packing. They also worked at the egg processing plants. And then there were many potato farmers up there, and they hired immigrants and refugees as well. Well, wouldn't you know that the community up there was very welcoming of immigrants and refugees, because their population was kind of getting older and the kids were leaving and they weren't coming back. And so essentially, immigrants were filling up the community. They were filling up the stores on Main Street. They were buying homes, buying cars. Their children were going to school, and they still are. It's still a thriving, wonderful community. And there I decided, based on my experiences, that I would become an immigration lawyer, because I saw that there was such a need for bilingual lawyers who understood the immigrant community. And so I decided that at some point I would go to law school. And I decided that while living in Staples, I would go to law school in the Twin Cities. And so I started my journey of attending law school while raising 3 small boys and while driving 2 hours, 40 minutes, 4 times a week, so that I could go to law school at Hamline University School of Law, now Mitchell Hamline School of Law. So that tells you a little bit about Greater Minnesota. A lot is happening. Let's talk about citizenship. Let's talk about why we love Judy so much. Okay? We have various pathways to citizenship. All of you know that one pathway to citizenship is through birth. If you're born here, you're a citizen, at least until today's date. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but up until today, if you're born in the United States, you're a US citizen. One can also be a citizen through acquisition. In other words, you become a citizen because either you had a parent who was a US citizen and you are the child of that parent. You can also obtain citizenship through derivative, which is similar to acquisition. And you can also become a citizen through naturalization, which is the process that maybe most of you are familiar with. It's the process where one actually goes and becomes naturalized at a special ceremony, oftentimes at the River Center, where we will find folks from the League of Women Voters helping us register new citizens to our voting polls. So let's get into pathways to citizenship through naturalization. Now, the very best place to find information about citizenship, in my opinion, is through the website uscis.gov. USCIS, and I know that's really small, but uscis.gov is a government website. USCIS stands for United States Citizenship Immigration Services. And it's our government agency that provides information in English and in Spanish to anyone who, well, it provides a lot of information, but I really like the resources available to those who are interested in becoming US citizens. If you open up the first page, it'll say 10 steps to naturalization. And I've reviewed this carefully. It is incredibly comprehensive, thorough. There's charts you can go through. It is very simple and straightforward and easily understandable. What are some of the benefits to becoming a citizen? Well, you all know what they are. Any guesses? Voting. How about that? Who got that? Point number 1. Yes. Any other benefits to becoming a citizen? Social Security. Okay, I like it. What else? Medicare. Yes. Let's see. The right to hold public office, the right to hold certain government jobs. You can only lose your right to live in the US through voluntary expatriation or revocation of your citizenship. It is very hard to lose your citizenship once you become a citizen. As a US citizen, you can also petition for family members. That will include your siblings, your parents, as well as your spouse, your children, sons and daughters, over the age of 21, under the age of 21. And their spouses can be, no, their spouses cannot be. Yes, their spouses can be derivatives. You also have the right to serve on a jury. Anyone ever served on a jury before? Yeah, so that's a lot of fun, right? I think it's interesting. They don't really let lawyers serve on juries, and I've never served on one, but I would find it very interesting. Oh, and there's also certain scholarships for students when they are US citizens. So there's a great benefit to becoming a US citizen. And today, more than ever, I am filing applications for citizenship and naturalization, more so than I ever have in my career. And so I'm at USCIS a lot lately. So these are the numbers provided from uscis.gov. They provide wonderful statistics on the number of citizens that they have naturalized every year. And in 2024, they welcomed 818,000 citizens during ceremonies held across the United States and around the world. And they're probably going to hit record numbers this year. Any guess why? Yeah, we don't have to say that, right? Okay, I'm gonna close with just telling you a little bit about myself. I went to law school in my mid-30s, and I went to law school specifically to become an immigration lawyer. When I graduated law school, I worked at a nonprofit law firm doing family-based work, and I served immigrants and refugees then. And then I opened my practice between 2008 and 2009, and I've been in private practice ever since. I find it to be incredibly rewarding as the daughter of immigrants, and I am incredibly grateful for each and every one of you. Your volunteerism really does make a huge difference in the lives of immigrants and refugees. Judy, I really can't say enough. Your work is so incredibly important. So thank you again. Thank you to the League, and thank you for your attention. I'll close. So I'll open it up for questions.
Does anybody need a card? That's how we're doing this.
I think I need to stand there and.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
And then you don't go
Yeah.
anywhere, because then you're gonna answer.
Okay, okay, all right.
Okay, all right, so the first question, help us to understand the limitations of protection given by visas, green cards, and even citizenship. For example, the doctor in Rhode Island had I think it's that student, no, an H-1B visa, but was still deported. So talk a little bit about people with visas that are still not seemingly being treated. Yeah.
Okay, I will do my best. The doctor in Rhode Island had, I think, an H visa or an H-1B. She was doing research. Is that the one you're talking about? I don't know whose question that was. Okay. My understanding is that there was an allegation that she was participating in activities not permitted while on her H-1B visa. So these visas, these non-immigrant visas, are often temporary. They're very specific for a very specific purpose. And in that case, it may have been for research or for conducting some sort of, I imagine it was research, right? It was a research position. I don't know much about her. And so if USCIS or if an investigator finds that she was doing something not permitted on her visa, then she could have her visa revoked, and she could be, and she was removed for that reason. What happens typically is one is placed in removal proceedings and one is then removed from the United States. So I don't know the specifics about her case. I remember seeing the headline and thinking, okay, Their allegation, at least the investigator's allegation, is that she did something that she wasn't supposed to do while on this visa. The protections are limited because non-immigrants are individuals who are here temporarily and are supposed to do exactly what they say they're supposed to do. They're only here for a very specific purpose and specific reason, and after their period of time allowed to be a beneficiary on this visa, they have to go back, okay? And so an investigator may decide that an individual is not doing something they're supposed to do. For example, if someone comes in on a non-immigrant visa as a tourist, or a temporary business worker, like a B1, B2 visa, if they come into the United States and they engage in employment in the United States, they may have their visa revoked and they may be asked to leave the United States because they're not permitted to work while on that B1, B2 visa, okay? And so there are not many protections. And then each case is individual. So this particular case, I don't know her history. I don't know what her ties are to the United States. I don't know whether she was married to a US citizen. I imagine that she had a good attorney who was advising her, but sometimes we don't understand the specifics around what was investigated and then what relief was available to her to prevent her deportation. And those are the two things that we're always looking for as immigration lawyers, how we can find relief to protect them, to keep them here, and then perhaps argue that she really wasn't doing something that was not authorized. Okay, I hope that answers your question.
These are a couple questions regarding green cards. One is kind of more straightforward. Do green card holders have constitutional rights, First Amendment, 14th Amendment, etc.? And then another green card question is more specific. A friend of mine got their green card renewed last year, but it arrived with their former name, not their current name. So they resubmitted the change, or they submitted change paperwork. The U.S. immigration site says they'll get their new green card in the fall of 2026. Should they be worried about that time frame in the current climate?
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah.
We'll address your friend right away. Your friend is okay. Your friend can go to USCIS local office and make an appointment to get their passport stamped with an I-551 stamp. It's a red stamp, and they can, on that stamp, it's essentially confirmation that this person's a legal permanent resident. So if they don't have their green card, the green card is just an indicator that one is a legal permanent resident. It's not it's just the proof that you are. It's just one form of evidence that you are a legal permanent resident. If your friend, I don't know whose friend it is, but if your friend doesn't get their green card in, it doesn't mean that they've stopped becoming residents. They continue to be residents. They maintain their status in the United States as legal permanent residents while their application is pending. It wasn't their fault that their green card came in with the wrong name. And those mistakes happen from time to time. The folks at USCIS are humans. Their AI hasn't reached USCIS yet. And so in the meantime, we may see errors. I see them all the time. Okay. Constitutional rights. Most constitutional rights are afforded to all individuals who are here in the United States. So all constitutional protections, such as the right against self-incrimination, the right to have an attorney, the right to due process, most constitutional protections are available to all immigrants here in the United States. Now, there are certain limitations to certain individuals, but for legal permanent residents, all Constitution protections, all protection under the Constitution apply. Individuals are asking me about their constitutional rights. And we have, I wish I would have brought them. We have these special cards we give to folks so that if an individual finds himself in a situation where they may be confronted and they don't want to speak to an officer, they can invoke their constitutional rights. Oh, you have some. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Here we go. You see, in order to have constitutional protections, one must invoke them either verbally or in writing. Well, I'll tell you, I've never been stopped by a federal agent, but I imagine that if I were stopped by a federal agent, I would probably freeze. I don't know if I could invoke anything other than invoke fear and probably tears, right? But I can give them this red card that's available to citizens and non-citizens. So these rights are available to citizens and non-citizens. And this says, I do not wish to speak with you or answer your questions or sign any documents based on my Fifth Amendment right under the Constitution. So they're invoking their constitutional protections. Another one says, I do not give you permission to enter my home. This is unlawful search and seizures. So under the Fourth Amendment, you don't have to give anyone permission to enter your home. If someone knocks on your door, you don't have to let them in. If they have a warrant to enter your home, they will enter by force. So, and that happens to citizens and non-citizens. So an individual can invoke their Fourth Amendment protections of the Constitution by simply saying, I don't give you permission to enter my home. You can also invoke your Fourth Amendment protections by giving them this card that says, I do not give you permission to search any of my belongings based on my Fourth Amendment rights. So for example, searching your bag or searching, and that again goes to citizens and non-citizens. And then this says, I choose to exercise my constitutional rights. So we hand this out to individuals, whether they're citizens or non-citizens or lawful permanent residents. They are entitled to due process rights under the Constitution. They're entitled to certain protections, and they're certainly entitled to speak to a lawyer and to have a lawyer with them present when they're being asked questions. And again, if the person wants a consult, I'm happy to talk to them. If they mention that you saw me at the League, I will be happy to give them a free consultation, okay? Only to the League. It's like League is special in my heart.
So while we're on these red cards, because we ordered some of these, is there any way you can see that League members might distribute those, or is there, and sorry, I dropped that.
Oh, it's okay.
Or are they mostly like immigration attorneys like yourself that are handing them out, or any thought on that?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Yeah. So we hand these out, but these are not exclusive to lawyers. These can be handed out in churches. One of the things that I often tell folks is, you are all US citizens. And as individuals who have the freedom to come and go as you please, and without the fear of being questioned, being arrested, being taken away and separated from your children, you have so much power to what I call engage in a campaign of compassion. And you have no idea just how powerful a smile and looking at someone and just saying hello means, especially when folks are in the grocery store Or if you go into an ethnic restaurant and you're sitting there and you see a waitress that may appear to be an immigrant. You don't know for sure, but you just have no idea just how powerful your smile and your compassion is. You know, you can leave a few on the table or leave a few, if you know of some of the restaurants or some of the places over on Lake Street, you just drop a few off. Some of them are really nice stores too. I really like the shopping, especially some of the pottery places out there. You can just go in there and just drop them off. They can be left anywhere, and I think people really like them. I know that I went to my hairdresser recently and he had them there. So this is for citizens and non-citizens alike. And I'll tell you, Judy, I think you said it best. Sometimes there's racism, right? And sometimes people don't really know where you come from. People don't know if someone who's darker skinned is an immigrant or not. I'll just say that those of you that are here have so much power to change the lives of individuals by simply showing up and being kind and compassionate, by giving of your time wherever you can, by shopping in their stores. So many of our businesses that are immigrant owned are losing money because people are afraid to go. So they don't want to shop there anymore. So I encourage all of you to take your power and to go make a difference. Take some of these cards with you, and wherever you think you might leave them, just drop them off. Just follow your heart and drop them off. You don't need to leave them at lawyers' offices. Most lawyers have these. And I hope that helps, where you can actually leave some of these.
Thank you. This one is another situation that someone's wondering about. Could you talk about tourist visas to help get family member visas to visit new U.S. citizens? What's the current timeline with USCIS, and what should we do if our family member's visa request is denied without reason? Any thought on that?
Okay, so we're talking about tourist visas to visit, which are non-immigrant visas. And remember, we talked about non-immigrant visas. They're temporary. They're only here for the purposes stated. So a tourist visa is probably only for tourism. You can only come to visit for short periods of time, and then you have to leave when you say you're going to leave. So if a non-immigrant comes in on a tourist visa and they intend to stay, they're likely going to be denied at the port of entry, even if they're able to get a visa at the consulate. Because when they reach the port of entry and they say, I'm here to stay with my family, and I'm here because our immigrant visas were taking too long, that's a red flag for that CBP officer, and they're likely going to deny them admission in the United States, and they're going to have them go back on the same plane or another plane going back home. And I've seen it. So to the individual who's worried about immigrant petitions taking a long time, I would strongly suggest that you speak to a lawyer, because there may be other venues for bringing that individual in that you may not be aware of. I wouldn't try to file an application for a non-immigrant visa, such as a tourist visa, on your own without first consulting a lawyer.
So the current administration has said that it will not respect spaces like schools and churches as asylum. So what advice would you give for those providing homes or food, etc., to those families?
Yeah. Well, that's a tough question, because this is a very different time. This is an extraordinary time. It's a time where we're invoking the Alien Sedition Act to deport individuals without due process. The Alien Sedition Act was from like 1790s. The Aliens Enemies Act. So it's a really challenging and difficult time because I can't predict what will happen. So if you're helping someone and have someone in your home that you're helping with food and with housing and with transportation, could one argue that you're harboring an illegal immigrant? Possibly. I've never seen it happen before in my career. But when I read the harboring laws in the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, and when I read the sections of the Immigration Nationality Act that include the criminal sections, because the Immigration Nationality Act, most people think about civil immigration law, but there's a criminal section to it that people sometimes forget about. And those laws are there, they're in place, and we don't know whether or not they will ever use them. I can't predict what's happening. I can't predict what will happen tomorrow. But what I do know is that today, if you're a member of a church that's providing sanctuary, then you probably have good counsel, an attorney advising. My colleague, John Maderos, is an individual who has provided some informal information and presentations to churches who want to offer sanctuary to individuals. But if your church has not consulted with a lawyer, I would suggest that you find someone whom you can reach out to should something unusual happen. Now, I don't know what will happen. I don't know if something extraordinary will happen, like a church will be charged or a priest or a pastor. I can't imagine. But nowadays, I just don't know anymore. I'm seeing things that I've never seen before. And so, you know, I personally can't advise you. I only know what the law says. And I know that the law can be interpreted many ways. And because I'm a lawyer and because I know that one can be creative in interpretation of a law, one can interpret something to be an illegal act versus just an act of humanitarianism, humanitarian, generosity and compassion. So I would strongly suggest that if you're not sure, to seek counsel, to seek the advice of an attorney privately, if you're doing it individually, or if you're doing it through a church, okay? I'm sorry, I didn't have a better answer.
That's good. Isn't it fun doing this dance?
Oh, it's okay. I'm okay with it.
Okay, this is about asylum seekers.
Okay.
So the question is, are asylum seekers undocumented or documented? What issues, traps, perils do you see with this administration in that asylum seeker status? And then what advocacy efforts would you advise in the near future?
So asylum seekers are in fact here with status. They are here as asylum seekers. They're applicants for asylum. And they have certain rights that are available to them, such as they have the ability to apply for employment authorization, and they have the ability to have a social security number. There's certain rights and benefits to those who are seeking asylum, similar to individuals who are here as refugees. So in terms of status, they're not here as illegals, right? Or what people call unauthorized. They're here with status, assuming that they have filed their applications for asylum within 1 year of having entered the United States. We're specifically speaking of asylum seekers, okay? Asylum laws, as they stand today, are becoming increasingly limited. So asylum is based on whether someone can meet the definition of what is a refugee, meaning that one must show that they are unable or unwilling to return to their home country because they've experienced past persecution based on what we call an enumerated ground, either based on their race, religion, based on a political opinion, based on a membership in a particular social group. For example, individuals who identify as LGBTQI. And the laws interpreting what that means are increasingly becoming narrower and narrower, okay? We know that the asylum laws will become further restrictive. We know that for sure because our administration has told us that. And we know that there are millions of applications pending that will very likely be denied. So the perils that individuals have when seeking asylum is that most individuals seeking asylum in the United States cannot reach the requirements as they're currently interpreted through our courts or USCIS. So if there's certain requirements you have to meet to be granted asylum, it's going to be increasingly more difficult over the years, and it's already very difficult. So finding the advice of a lawyer that can help with that application for asylum is going to be very useful. Making sure that the application is filed within 1 year of having entered the United States. After the application for asylum is filed, encouraging the individual to file for employment authorization and getting that social security number, and then complying with all the rules of what entails having a social security number and employment authorization, like paying taxes. And then, of course, being prepared for the day that their application will be adjudicated. If an individual applies for asylum today before USCIS, it may be 5 years or more before their application is adjudicated. In those 5 years, many things will happen. It may be even more years, but let's just say 5 years. Many things happen in the life of an individual. I strongly suggest to my clients that they kind of keep track of some of the big changes, like marriage, having children, any contact with the law, any tickets, anything. Anything that may be relevant or pertinent to an application for asylum once it's adjudicated either by USCIS or by the immigration courts. Was that most of the question? I wanted to make sure that I get to the entire question because it was like 4 parts.
What advocacy efforts would you advise? Is there anything?
Well, advocacy efforts would be to do everything you can to try to get your application or the application of the individual in front of a lawyer, and a lawyer that has had many cases adjudicated, because the lawyer is going to know how some cases from some countries are being interpreted based on the laws and how they're being interpreted. And generally it's case law. So case law is based on decisions by judges, okay? And so a lawyer is going to be aware of that case law that will then be used to interpret the application for asylum. And so that case law is going to change over those 5 years or more. And The claim for asylum may become weaker over the years or may become stronger because one doesn't need to have past persecution to apply for asylum. One can also have a fear of future persecution. So if an individual suddenly fears future persecution, let's say I've been in the country now for 5 years, something happens, now I fear future persecution, I can also apply for asylum. But it's important to get that application in front of an attorney that can review it for any potential pitfalls or issues that may be raised by a USCIS officer or an immigration judge.
This one is a quick one. Do you recommend naturalized citizens carry passports for protection?
Well, the law requires that every single individual, non-immigrant, or every single foreign-born individual, like green card holders, DACA, TPS, individuals in proceedings, that they have some form of identification of their status. Now, a naturalized citizen shouldn't normally have to carry around a passport because the passport is a valuable thing to have. But maybe having a copy of their passport on their phone is okay. I have a copy of my passport on my phone. There isn't anything wrong with that. Having a copy of their naturalized, they can't legally copy it, but oftentimes I might scan it in, a copy of their naturalization certificate, because sometimes they get lost and we need to replace them. So it is helpful to have that because we do know that sometimes individuals may be mistaken for not having status. And we know that that's already happened. And so it's easier for an immigration officer to say, I see you have status, we'll leave you alone, right? We know that they're doing their job. They're going after individuals who don't have status in the United States. And it's helpful. It's helpful especially from just a very practical standpoint. Not being arrested is a good thing, no matter who you are, even if it's by mistake. And we know it's happened. So I would suggest at least a copy of it. It's 7:30.
Yeah.
I hope I got to everyone's questions. Thank you so much, the league and all of you. And I'm happy to share the slideshow with everyone. You can certainly send it around, and the notes include those citations to Minnesota Compass and to one other organization that I borrowed information from. Okay.
Great.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, thank you.
We have just a few announcements for league members that are in the room. Rita?
I'll go through these very quickly, and these are, first of all, if you're a league member and you have or have not received an email about the membership, please see Ann Tony back at the table now. And then Thursday, April 3rd at 7 on Zoom, you will have, league members will have an opportunity to vote on the 12 statements in the league, the National League Federal Judiciary Study. And check that out, watch for that in the next edition of the Voter and also in the e-blast for that information. Then in less than a month, Tuesday, April 15th, we have another program here, interesting one called What the Heck is a Watershed District and Why Should I Care? So check that flyer out, which is, Becky, do you want to point that out? Back there, check that out for information. And then also May 6th, save the date, is our annual meeting, and that's going to be switched to Little Canada City Hall. And we have another conversation with the judge, 2nd District Judge Mark Ireland. So just keep those in mind. And if you're not a league member, see Ann. The bar is open. The membership bar is always open. Thank you so much for coming, attending.